The map of America lies quiet. 50 states, bound together by law, by shared history, by the promise of unity. But imagine for a moment if that unity shattered, if every border became a front line, if every state turned on its neighbor, what would happen? If every U.S. state fought each other? This is not a simple thought experiment. It is a vision of chaos. 50 distinct governments, each wielding armies, resources, and strategies of their own. The United States would no longer exist. In its place, a fractured battlefield stretching from the Atlantic to the Pacific. To understand this nightmare scenario, we must first define the rules. This is not a nuclear standoff. We assume each state fights with conventional weapons, National Guard forces, and the resources within its borders. Alliances may form, but trust will be fragile. Victory will not be determined by ideals, but by geography, population, industry, and logistics. So what would that world look like? First, the military balance. California stands as the most powerful on paper. Nearly 40 million people. A vast economy. Access to ports and advanced technology. Texas follows close behind. An energy empire with sheer landmass and a culture steeped in military tradition. But power is not only size. States like New York and Illinois carry industrial weight. Virginia and North Carolina house major military bases. Alaska is vast, resource-rich, and strategically remote. Each holds a unique card in the opening moves of this conflict. Then comes geography. The Great Plains offer open battlegrounds, vulnerable to rapid movement. The Appalachian Mountains carve a natural wall through the east. Rivers, the Mississippi, the Missouri, the Ohio, become lifelines of supply and barriers of defense. And the coastlines? Both shield and liability, offering access to the sea but leaving states exposed to amphibious assault. Now, history gives us clues. In the American Civil War, two sides split the nation and the cost was staggering. More than 600,000 dead. That was with only two factions. Multiply that number by 50, and the scale of devastation becomes almost unimaginable. But unlike the 1860s, today's states are armed with modern weapons. Tanks, aircraft, drones, artillery. The destruction would be faster, sharper, more merciless. So how would this unfold? The opening phase begins with shock. National Guard units seize highways, airports, and energy hubs. Borders close. Communication networks fracture. The first battles are fought not for territory but for survival. Control of food supplies, water, and fuel. In the Midwest, states like Iowa, Nebraska, and Kansas guard their corn and wheat. To the south, Louisiana and Texas fortify oil refineries and pipelines. California, with Silicon Valley and fertile valleys, defends both data and agriculture. But war is not static. Soon, coalitions emerge. The Northeast, small and densely packed, would likely unite quickly out of necessity. New England states cannot survive alone, but together they wield industry, ports, and sheer population density. In the South, historical ties and shared culture could push states like Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi to form a bloc. The Midwest might fracture more slowly, vulnerable to pressure from stronger neighbors. And then the giants. California, Texas, Florida, New York. Each with tens of millions of people. Each with economic powerhouses. Their clashes would decide much of the conflict's direction. Imagine Texas pushing northward, securing resources from Oklahoma and Kansas. California extending eastward, seeking control of water from the Colorado River. Florida defending its peninsula fiercely while pressing into neighboring Georgia. New York consolidating the Northeast before turning west. Step by step, the map begins to bleed. In the heartland, control of the Mississippi River becomes decisive. Whoever dominates this artery dictates the flow of goods, troops, and fuel. States like Missouri, Tennessee, and Louisiana transform into battlegrounds. Bridges are destroyed. Cities along the river, St. Louis, Memphis, New Orleans, become prize targets and smoldering ruins. In the west, terrain dictates strategy. The Rocky Mountains slow invasion, favoring defensive states like Colorado, Utah, and Montana. Yet California, with overwhelming population and industry, eventually pushes inland, though not without attrition. In the Pacific Northwest, Washington and Oregon, resource-rich, with ports, hold together for a time, but face pressure from both California to the south and inland states desperate for access to the coast. Meanwhile, Alaska and Hawaii stand apart. Alaska's vast wilderness and oil reserves make it a fortress few can touch. Its isolation, once a weakness, becomes strength. Hawaii, far across the ocean, is nearly untouchable without a navy. granting it a strange neutrality in a war tearing the mainland apart. But population is not enough. Modern war demands industry. States like Michigan, once the arsenal of democracy, regain importance. Factories churn out vehicles, weapons, and ammunition. Pennsylvania, with steel and coal, becomes another industrial prize. Control of these states shifts again and again, every advance met with desperate counterattacks. Now comes the second phase: exhaustion. Cities collapse under siege. Millions are displaced, seeking food and shelter. Infrastructure buckles. Power grids fragment. Water systems fail. Disease spreads in refugee camps. The economy, once the strongest in the world, lies in ruins. The war shifts from movement to attrition. Guerrilla tactics rise. States unable to match larger powers resort to sabotage, ambush, and insurgency. The conflict drags into years. By now, initial alliances splinter. Victories breed distrust. Former allies turn on one another. Each state fights not only for survival, but for dominance. And who in the end could prevail? California's size gives it an edge, but its dependence on water from beyond its borders makes it vulnerable. Texas has oil and industry, but vast open terrain exposes it to multiple fronts. New York is wealthy and populous, but hemmed in by neighbors. Florida commands a peninsula, but can be bottled up. No state can dominate without allies, and no alliance lasts forever. Perhaps the Midwest, though battered, becomes decisive. Its farmlands feed whoever controls them. Its rivers shape the movement of war. Or perhaps the mountain states, small but defensible, endure longer than anyone expects. The final victor is uncertain, but the cost is not. Tens of millions dead. Cities abandoned. Entire regions scorched. The United States, once a superpower, shattered into a patchwork of exhausted fiefdoms. A new dark age born not from foreign invasion, but from fratricide. And yet, history whispers a warning. Nations are strongest when united, weakest when divided. The experiment of America has always been fragile. From the Revolution to the Civil War to moments of political division, the possibility of fracture has loomed. But unity has endured so far. So what if every U.S. state fought each other? The answer is not a victor's name. The answer is ruin. A portrait of collapse where no one truly wins. But what if we reverse the question? Not what happens if the states fight, but what happens if they are forced to stand together against something greater? A crisis beyond their borders, a challenge that demands unity. Would the same divisions that could destroy them become the very strengths that save them?